To get a better feeling of these terms applications, let's have a look at the following situation. Sometimes you have a question: what is the result of some activity? This is an ROI direction. To get some examples in our product management expertise area, let's assume that you run either some offline event or some digital campaign. When I mention offline events, I mean that you do some presentation series, workshops, or participate in some exhibitions where you can meet your potential partners and customers. In this case, a follow-up is about contacting your visitors, your potential customers, during these events and right after these events. And ROI would be a comparison, investment amount in these activities and sales margin generated by participants of these activities. When I say a digital campaign, I mean that you interact via web banners or some similar digital advertisement tools to get something from your potential customers, like contacts or applications to test some of your products, or something similar like making sure that they receive some promotional code and do some other online interaction. So here is a quick example of a digital campaign. You want your potential customers to click on some banner and then to fill in some application, some questionnaire where they specify details about themselves, and you, in your turn, would like to give them your product for testing with hope that they will buy similar product or products later. In this case, a follow-up would be your communication with these customers who have filled in these questionnaires, like sending them some samples and giving them some promotional codes or offering them some discounted services. And ROI would be a calculation, the price you have paid to get these applications from these customers, and what these customers have actually purchased from you within some certain period after the activity. One of the most important items is that reaching a good value of ROI starts long before you do any investment. As a project management team, you should raise these questions first. Is your target defined? And what is the target? When and how do you plan to evaluate the results of this investment? I suppose that you have defined your strategy and main targets, and you do this activity in accordance with your strategy to reach your main targets. I leave the link to the strategy topic below, and we move further. On the helicopter view level, on the high level, this would help us to estimate ROI and to plan follow-up activities before you do any investment. Example, we would like to get 4 million euros in sales revenue from our B2B solutions in the next year. For that, this year we are investing 80,000 euros in business trips, in product materials, in participation in different exhibitions, in some catering. Let's assume that you plan to have a 50% sales margin. With these digits, you can apply the following to estimate your plan's ROI. 80,000 euros divided by 4 million euros is 2% intermediary sales-based ROI. Or, in other words, 80,000 euros divided by half of 4 million euros is 4% ROI based on sales margin. That's a good value. We have done it to make the first good example. This means that The wish is to have 25 euros return for every 1 euro invested. For example, your target audience is adults from Bayern and you wish to have 100 filled-in applications where every application is a kind of wish to try your product. Let's assume that your marketing experts have estimated that every 100 shown banner will be clicked and that one click will cost 10 euros for you. So you could estimate that your investment is around 1000 euros. And let's assume that your sales department estimates that every 10th customer who has tried your product will also purchase something from you. Let's say another 3 products this year. Let's assume that the price of your product is 30 euro. We see here that 90 euro is the revenue from every one new customer. Therefore, 900 euro is the revenue from all these 10 customers. 50% is your estimated margin. 1000 is your investment, as we have said. So 1350 euro is your anticipated margin in 3-year-long perspective resulted from this activity. And ROI in this case would be 1000 divided by 1350, so 74%. That's not a brilliant ROI. Still, you can estimate that every one invested euro today brings you approximately the same, a bit more, €1.35 within 3 years. That would be important at this point to mention that every company calculates ROI and margin a bit differently. So we show here a logic of calculation and list of thoughts required to do this calculation and to provide some estimations. In order to manage your ROI value, you need to know what percentage of your allocated budget you plan to spend during which part of the timeline, during which part of the process. For example, if you plan to spend 40% of your allocated budget before the activity and 40% of your allocated budget during the activity, you need to be regularly checking that you are within these allocated limits. To do a good follow-up after your event, you need to do a good preparation already before the event. We make a separate video to this events topic later. Here just wanted to mention that firstly, you need to do a good preparation. Secondly, you need to select key messages that you want to deliver to your audience. And ideally, you need to take care of giveaways that they are supposed to take with. If you have received a proposal with websites where you theoretically can meet your target audience, you should also check on your own if your potential customers really visit these websites and what is the number of your potential customers which regularly visit these sites. That's the most important. We do a separate video to the online topic later. During your offline event or online campaign, you already can start a closer communication with participants. You can start with a question if they like what you do. Check the following during your offline events. Do you know and do all your involved colleagues know the reasons why your potential customers visit you? And do you know the time that your most important guests can stay with you? That's important to establish the relevant content with the relevant key messages and to have a good time for the follow-up with your key visitors. You already can start some follow-up here in a sense of agreeing on the next actions after the event. Also, during your online activity, you already can manage the potential results. Do you have already applications or questions from your online campaign participants? And if yes, have you already contacted them? That's important firstly to check if these inquiries are coming from your target audience, and secondly, if the contact numbers are accessible. Or you can face a situation when you have a good number of views and clicks, but there are no or almost no target customers there. The most important here is to acknowledge that already during your activity you can correct something in order to provide a good ground for follow-up and to be able to reach a good ROI value. If you have run offline events, you need to regularly synchronize across all involved functions. Like, for example, product management should know that sales is contacting 20 customers that have shown some interest, and of them 10 are most likely to come to product management with some additional questions or requests for product demonstrations. When we say follow-up, we don't mean to irritate somebody with daily calls or emails with typical or not so well thought out questions. We mean that you need to be in contact with your participants while they still remember about you some short time after the event. Usually they all have some individual requirements or some specific concerns, and your role here is to prepare some relevant individual answers to every of these inquiries, and this would be a good reason and a good ground for the follow-up contact. Again, the same applies also for online campaigns. You can send to participants some testers or invitations for some coming events right after the campaign. The short summary here would be that you need to synchronize with your team who does what and when. You need to be in regular contact with your participants and know their individual requests and have prepared individual proposals. And you need to acknowledge the feedback and to share your feedback among your colleagues. After you have run your activities and after you have done a good number of contacts with all your participants, you can estimate if it's worth doing this type of activities and if it's worth doing them in a way like you have done. In the numerator, you can sum up all your expenses for this activity, like work time, business trips, rent of rooms, web banners, catering, and so on. In the denominator, you can sum up a sales margin from all purchases resulting from your events. Depending on the market, you can calculate this after half or after a year. Some companies consider only new customers for ROI purposes, while another companies consider all customers since they say that they have strengthened customer relations. The most important is to estimate the amount that brings you every invested euro and to make sure that it brings more than an average program from your state savings bank. You need to make sure that every participant from your company knows his or her role and when he or she is supposed to contribute. This would allow you to establish a good follow-up process and to manage a good ROI value. Now it's time for your questions. Please state your questions. Have a great day and greetings from Bayern.